This week on the show, I'm joined by Tim Loeffler. Tim is a financial planner who has been with Barnum since 2015. He focuses on finding solutions for his clients, short-term needs, and long-term objectives. He's here to share his story and his past 10 years experience working in this industry. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. Tim, welcome to Small Steps, Big Wins. I'm so happy. You took me by surprise today that you showed up in the studio. I'm used to doing these on Zoom now, so it's really nice to have you here live. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited for you to share your journey of the last 10 years and how you got to where you are and coming right off the campus. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Paul. It brings me back a little bit to when I first started coming to Shelton every couple of days. Originally from Long Island, so this is a little bit closer now that I'm in Queens. So it's not too bad of a drive up.
All right.
Glad to be here.
So I'm glad to have you here. So let's start with that. So, you come out of college, you're a smart kid. You've done a lot of good stuff in your career prior to that. And what made you decide to come into financial services and then Barnum? How did you land here?
Sure. So it started originally, I would say, back in high school. We were fortunate enough in my school where we actually had a finance class. So my senior year, I took it as an elective and it automatically clicked.
Wow.
I was always decent at math and stuff like that, but it never felt anything because it was all just numbers and equations. When you're in finance, you can actually start to see the impact that has. Now, the class was nothing to do with this industry in general. But it just get me in the right path. Going to college, did a lot of courses and they were more corporate finance driven, which was interesting in and of itself, but it didn't really click too well. But one of my roommates in college, his junior year actually started interning at Barnum in the Warwick office with Ben Howarth and his team.
Oh, wow.
So my buddy Phil got me introduced with Barnum. He was telling me all about how, you can actually do the things that you want to do in finance, but also help people and see the impact that it has. And then eventually my senior year, I interviewed through one of the managers at the time and was able to secure a spot in the Westchester office.
Wow. And so you get referred. It's interesting how things work in life, right? So you take that class, which exposes you to that.
Yep.
And then maybe if you have a different roommate, maybe you don't end up in this sector. Maybe you go corporate, but you get referred. You end up in the Westchester office. So what happened after that? Like you're 22 years old, you're out of school, you're coming in and, tell me how it was in the beginning. You hit the ground running and you're like a rocket ship or what?
I would say if rocket ships take a long time to start, sure. I think it was the almost exact opposite for me. I think to my benefit, I was good at, like I said before, the math and the numbers part of things, but relating that to actual human beings is very different. So I think on my end, the biggest thing that took me a while to learn is actually relating that to people, right? Relating that to what they actually want or need from an advice standpoint versus just giving them answers.
Yeah. So got it. You were more of a technician. And it's interesting because when I think back to this career, they would hire totally the opposite person, right? That relationship, salesy, where you come in and this more thorough numbers, analytical. But then and did you realize it? It seems like you did, now looking back, you realized it, but did you realize it at the moment that was a hard thing for you? Or did you just fight through and say, you know what, I'm going to do this my way? Or did you realize that I had to build this?
Well, I'm hard-headed in nature. So for me, I just kept hitting my head against the wall, trying to start the conversations the same way every time. So it was good because I didn't quit, right? I didn't stop when I was struggling, but I also didn't change as quickly as probably I should have.
What made you change?
I think it was giving thought to the fact that when I'm in a meeting and I'm giving advice and going through it and somebody's not taking the advice, it's not only not helping me grow, but it's also hurting them, right? It's not putting them in a better spot to succeed or do things better. So I think when I started internalizing that, that was when I really started to take a lot of the sales training that we had at the office more seriously. But also the environment we had when we first started in the Westchester office was phenomenal, right? There was at any time 10 to 20 people that were all just in the same space. So bouncing off of what did you do in this meeting? What worked? What didn't work? That I think was really impactful to see, hey, the 5 people who are doing it this way are not seeing success, but the 10 people who are doing it the other way, right? Because they're more personable, they're more relatable. It started to click eventually.
Now, was there, how that probably took a couple of years though, right? For that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So what was the mindset like? I know that you commuted to work.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like going in there? And did you have to get yourself like focused every morning to say, I got to keep just getting better? Did you know you were going to land, and we'll get to where you are today in a minute? Did you know that, or what kept you going?
The no quit mentality, right? I think that that's something that I learned from my parents early on, right? My dad always at any point had 1 to 2 different jobs that he was doing. Whenever he was home, he was always doing other things around the house to keep himself busy. So the constant work paid off, right, is what I saw.
Yeah.
So continuing to push was all I knew.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So you now a part of a team. You have 2 partners. How did that like transpire? Was it just during this moment that you were doing this? Did you how did that click? And did you figure out that teaming? And it's interesting. There's many people that find a senior partner and then they team underneath the senior partner, but you guys formed almost like a partnership where all 3 of you are running the team together in different ways. How did that come about, and what made you have the foresight to think about that?
So definitely no foresight was involved.
Okay.
I think from our end, it was almost accidental. Looking back to the people that we were starting off with, it was just Vin and Dan and myself. We all clicked, right? Whenever we weren't in meetings, we were always hanging out and talking and doing other things, talking about what was working, what wasn't working. So eventually when we were doing our own meetings together, it was just back and forth, right? One another that we were working with.
So you were doing a lot of joint work together, and that probably helped a little bit of your learning curve in terms of, because I was going to ask you that, did you see a lot of that, like I don't want to use the word sales, but the relationship building and the keeping it simple for the client part? Did you learn that from those guys because they had a different MO than you?
We have completely different approaches, the 3 of us. And it's fun because now we're in the spot where our conversations all go in the same way, but we still get there differently. But absolutely, I would be in a meeting with Dan and I'd see how he starts the conversation and continues to build it. I'd be in a meeting with Vin and see how he calms everyone down and keeps them comfortable. So adding in and pulling that into the conversation itself was super helpful.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting when I think about what you're saying now and think back what you opened up with, how you were this technician, more analytical. You took an analytical approach to sales and relationship building where you watched it very carefully, and then you became more of an expert in that through your technical background. Am I saying that correct? Is that what I'm kind of feeling? That maybe you don't realize it.
It's a nice way to put it. Sure.
But I think you identified a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of building a spreadsheet, this was a problem that you had to work through as a person. Yep. And get those skills. But the other thing is, and it always kind of drove me crazy, like it's the only analogy I could think of as an athlete, and now being a corporate athlete. Football season starting now, and they're running through the plays, and the quarterback that's, been in the NFL for 15 years is still doing the drills that they did when they were 8 years old, and walking through and understanding and learning kind of preseason. And in financial services, we learn these sales skills when we first start, and we never work on them. And if it's part of your craft, then it's not even the selling, it's taking a complex problem and helping someone understand it simply. So back to your earlier point, which is really great that it resonated with you, was that you felt you were doing a disservice to the client because they had a problem that you identified, and you had a solution, and they weren't taking it And they weren't taking it not because it wasn't right, because you couldn't get them to understand why they should. And you took that real seriously.
Absolutely. And now the next step or the next stage is we're building out more people on the team, and there's infrastructure, there's team members. And every time I'm in a meeting where one of the guys is setting it up, I put more emphasis on how do I ask the right or proper questions to put the client in the best spot, but also to have the impact where these guys can see the success as quickly as possible with working with individuals.
Well, interesting. So now you're 10 years in, and
scary to say.
Yeah, scary, but amazing. Mm-hmm. You're already in the top 1% of the industry in terms of the level of business you're doing. Let's talk about what's the vision with the team now. Like, I know you're replicating the three of you and others, but why don't you talk about how you're thinking? And I love what you just said, how you're teaching that. And you have to be so much more aware in those meetings to demonstrate, so someone doesn't have to go through the same thing. Even though you walked up the hill with no shoes on, they don't have to.
Yes. Anybody to avoid what I ran through would be lovely. As far as where the team is headed now, it's like you mentioned, we're adding on new layers of individuals onto the team, having them grow, start to take on some of the other clients that we have that, would fit better with them, and they'd be able to have a more impact and more of a high touch environment with, and continuing to see those guys and gals grow.
So let's back it up a little bit. So what is it? You have, your three partners, and then what else do you have on the team right now?
Yep. So it's the three partners, Vin, Dan, myself. Then we have AJ, who just stepped from the BDA role into the advisor role, and he's doing an awesome job so far. We have 4 other BDAs who are outbound people who are just setting up meetings and doing initial conversations.
And are all 4 of them on a path to become a financial advisor?
Yes. Yeah. So we have one more by the end of the year who will be switching over if all the tests go well. And then we have 3 others that are about a year behind.
Awesome. And
then we have 3 infrastructure. Great. So we have Anthony, our practice manager, who helps run the day-to-day and actually coordinates a lot of what's going on behind the scenes on the team. Rosie, who does the investments, and then Bridget, who does the insurance.
It's great. So very functional, very well laid out. And so talk about what you were saying earlier. So you're taking some of the BDAs and are you starting to transfer some of your clients to them now? Some of your existing clients?
We're beginning to transfer some of those, as well as also the opportunities that we have that would fit better with them.
So how does that process work? Like, you're going back to 10 years because between the 3 of you all came in around the same time.
Yep.
So call it 30 years of clients already built. Some may be transactional in nature in the beginning. And so now how are you just carving that out, and how are you thinking about that?
So we're thinking about it from the standpoint of the client at all times, is how do we have the biggest touch point with those people, the biggest impact in their lives to get them to where they need to be. So if we see somebody who, we will meet with a few times a year, but they want a higher touch environment, that'll be somebody where AJ will step in, right? And he has the time, right? Which is a wild thing to think of as well, because this time 5 years ago, all I had was time.
Yeah.
So now it's really thinking about, how do I be as intelligent as possible with the allotment of time we have.
Yeah. Now, what's a typical week for you now? Like, talking about time, how many client meetings do you do on a normal week right now?
If it's a busy run of days, we can meet with anywhere from 30 to 50 people in a week on the team.
And that's you individually, or each one of you?
Each one of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So 30 to 50. And are those let's just use 40. Mm-hmm. So that's, 8 a day. Is that a combination of new clients that you're bringing on, or attempting to bring on in second, third, fourth meetings, and then existing book?
Yeah, it's probably about 25 to 30% existing clients, doing reviews and touch bases with them. And then the rest is all new client onboarding. So
basically what you're saying earlier is you're probably going to take half of that. Let's say it's 30% of existing, You're going to take maybe 10 or 12, 15% of that and transfer it to one of your new advisors and ultimately the other ones, which is going to free up time for you to have, six more new meetings a week.
Exactly. Now that's going to be a process to get there.
Yeah.
But that will eventually be the goal.
And how are you using, I'm assuming you're doing it through using technology, and how have you guys embraced technology on your team?
So up until Anthony was here, I was our Salesforce wizard, if you want to call it that. So I was the one who was diving around and building out a lot of the reports. I'm very grateful that we have Anthony now because he is stepping very happily into that role.
It's awesome.
And he is building out a lot of the segmentation reports, a lot of the review reports, and all that stuff that we need to operate the day to day. So we're using Salesforce pretty much all day, every day.
Yeah. And for every part of the business.
Yeah.
Great.
So tracking new client meetings, new opportunities, closed clients, reviews, when should we be reaching out? All of that is driven directly through Salesforce, as well as also our metrics on our younger guys, seeing where and how they're doing, right? What are they struggling with? What can they improve on?
So you do that weekly and you meet with them, and that's pretty exciting. I heard from one of our interns that was interning with you guys. He calls it, what's it called? Dial Mondays or Dial Day. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. So this goes back to when we first started. We would pretty much we would dial every day because we didn't have any meetings, but we would do a dial-a-thon once every month or once every quarter. We wanted to make sure that the guys that are still doing it are seeing that, us and the partners are also able to do it. So we hopped right in and we try to do a dial day once every other month and a dial-a-thon once a quarter, where dial-a-thon is all day from 9 to 7. Dial day is 5 to 7.
So 5 at night to 7, just to grind it in. Now, I also heard that you guys do it the old school way, which made me feel really good. You get a board out and you track it. You put a goal and objective. We used to do that for many years.
And we even got a gong. So we got a gong that comes out. We hit the number whenever you get an application, you get a meeting or whatever you get as a success. You hit the gong and you just mark it on the board.
I love it. And it just fires up. But talk about the dial. He gave an example of where you guys sit in the conference room and they call each other.
Yeah. So that's part of the training. Yeah. So that's our Tuesday dial training day. And then we have role play on Wednesday.
So how does the dial training work?
So we'll have the guys all sit in a circle and we'll just choose you call you and be difficult, be easy. And based on where the person is in their trajectory, because I think that's another thing to balance is we have some people who are just ready to step into the advisor role where they know all of this stuff like the back of their hand.
Yep.
But we also have 2 people that started 2 months ago, within the last 2 months.
Yep.
So the different trajectories on where they are will kind of dictate how difficult or how easy the conversation goes, but they'll just go back and forth. And at the end of the conversation, everyone goes around robin. What didn't you like? What could have changed? What was good about what they did?
Now, is that ran by one of the partners or all the partners, or how's that work?
By availability. More often than not, Dan does run that. But from time to time, Vin and I are on that as well.
I love it. One of the things that I thought it was amazing feedback, and I love hearing feedback. I sit through Shark Tank that our interns do every year. And one of the interns talked about some things that we can enhance the program with, and they want to make more calls. And they gave an example, but they talked about, they didn't say the person's name, but one of the new BDAs that came on your team must have came right when the internship started. And they said they heard him on the phone, and then a month later they heard him again, and they've been listening to him through the whole thing. And they say where he went in 1 month was incredible. But what the interns were saying was, if that was us and we have 8 weeks, and if we did this for 8 straight weeks, we would be so much better if we want to take this advisor route, because we would get that learning in early on in their career.
I think that's one of the things that, to give more credit than obviously there's always credit due to Barnum and what you guys have built here, the programs that we have now, the ability to get in front of people and to have these conversations day in and day out is exponential, right? I think it allows the newer people starting to hit where we were 2-3 years in within a year.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, let me unbundle this. When we say 10,000 hours to be a master, right, from the tipping point, what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, due to transition solutions, you're able to make way more calls up front versus when you started, it was heavy into the book of business mostly, that they're getting in 1 year the reps that you took 3 or 4 years to get.
Exactly. Yeah. It's night and day. And we're extremely excited about it because we're telling them that on the front end and letting them know, like, hey, you're getting a jump start on this. So take all and full advantage of it at all points.
The one thing that I love that you're doing as a team, which I think is really important, is you're not letting them do it wrong for too long, right? Meaning you're doing a lot of that coaching. So you're getting some of the better skill sets up front, because you could do it wrong for 2 years and then have to switch all the stuff that you learned. But because of some of the commitments you've made with role playing on Wednesdays and dial day on Tuesday, that's really helping dramatically.
And that wasn't something we did initially. So that was a learning process by us over time. We fell back to those days themselves were originally done by our original sales manager when we first started. So I think that was a pivotal thing for us. And when we looked back on it, why did we get to where we were? Was because we built off of that. Because our first, few people in the role weren't nearly as successful. So it was nice to start to see, once we start putting the time and, like you said, correcting and redirecting some of the conversations to a more constructive way, super helpful.
Yeah. Well, they say that, I won't give you the whole, it's called the 70-20-10 rule to bringing on talent and bringing people into the industry. But 70% of people, leadership makes a difference. So if you don't put the time in, someone that has all the talent, there's a 10%er that's no matter what, it's going to make it. But the 70%ers are the bulk of the people. It needs leadership to do that. So I think that's a really good point. Talk about you as a planner. So, you talked about, you opened up with, how you love finance, you love the analytical. Whenever I participate with you and your team, you seem to be more of the technical person on the planning and running the numbers and all that, still using that skill set that you have for your team. But talk about when you're meeting with clients, like, what is your process like after you gather the data? You're using e-money. How are you going to the market? And talk about that for a minute.
So every single client process is pretty much the same exact procedure, right? It's obviously completely different conversations with every person and their situations. But every first conversation is an introduction, learn about us at Barnum, what we do, what their questions, their concerns, and their goals are. Next meeting is always through the planning software, through e-money, where we go through the risks that they have and things to dive into deeper.
Now, you got that stuff from meeting one in your fact find, so you're able to have some of that ready for the meeting.
Exactly. The second meeting we won't ever do unless we have enough of the facts to be able to give out some sort of a decent output.
So, and that's visual with the client. It's interesting. Yesterday, my dad taught me that the isms have been around forever because they're real. And I had to remind someone that a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So you're taking, even though it's because you started your practice in face-to-face, right? For the first 5 years, you pretty much saw all your clients face-to-face.
My first car I got was a lease out of college. It was a 10,000 mile a year lease. My first 12 months that I was here, I did, I think, 39,000 miles. So yeah, it was a lot of face-to-face at first. And you did get a lot more impact.
Yep.
Right. Once COVID happened, you lost a little bit of that because nobody wanted to sit face-to-face for a while.
Yep.
But I think now where we are overall is everyone's adapted to Zoom.
Yeah. But I think what you're doing is, I call it Zoom face-to-face. And what you just said is a really huge point. So, and we'll continue on your process, but in second meeting, you're taking a ton of info and you're showing it to the client visually to get buy-in, that to basically articulate where they are and what they need to do to get where they're going.
Yep. I'll always say it. A president once said it, trust but verify, right? When we go through the planning software, we're going to verify all of the spots where they are and the areas and gaps that they have. And it's up to them if they want to dive deeper into them.
Okay. So what happens after you present that second meeting?
Yep. Generally, the next meeting will be all investment focused. Usually the easiest area we can tighten things up for people is on the investment side of putting them from where they are now to more efficient spot. Because a lot of times people don't spend a ton of time in that space.
Yep.
So we'll go through that with them. And then the meeting after that is a state and tax meeting. So we'll talk about what happens if you were to pass away now or later. Do we need to put any trust or estate work in place?
And all through that is all used through eMoney, and that's where all your modeling is done.
eMoney and Morningstar. And
you, as the partners, are doing that on your own?
Yeah. So my day-to-day will generally be, I'll arrive at the office around 6:45 to 7. From 7 to 9, prep for the day, recaps from yesterday, anything that just miscellaneous has to get done. And then from 9 onwards is my pay time activities.
And then that's from 9 to usually probably 7 to 8, 9 o'clock at night, because you're seeing 8 meetings. And are your meetings usually 45 minutes or an hour? Or
first meetings are generally 20 to 30.
Yeah.
So I could fit a lot more of those in bulk.
Yeah.
Second, third, and fourth meetings are generally 45 minutes to an hour.
Got it.
So I usually don't do 5 of those meetings back to back because you get Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
Right. You really do, which is weird to think of because you're just sitting down and talking and showing things, but it does add up.
I'm sure it does. And I'm sure, and does it help you to, because I know there's different schools of thought, right? Like the time that you're spending to build the plan that morning, you're using off selling hours, or seeing hours, I should say. So you're being super efficient with that. But I think there's one benefit. It's also helping you learn the customer even more.
Yep. Absolutely. When I'm in the meeting with them, I'm not scrambling to get things done. It's more learning about them qualitatively versus I already have the quantitative. I already have the numbers, the facts and figures. It's more about what are their goals, their worries and concerns.
Yep.
Which, going back to what we started with, was the first thing I lacked, was having that conversation to begin with.
Which conversation?
The qualitative, right? What is important? What is your worries? What are your concerns?
Yeah, because you were just showing him what you found.
1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Right. I could do the math.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
And that was helpful for me because it built up my confidence, but it didn't because I didn't have any impact.
Yeah. Which is amazing. And for you to realize that, and listen, when it's all said and done, it's making that impact is the game.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving you. So last, 2 questions. So let me start with the first one. That new advisor, first 5 years, learning, doing a lot of things that you did, what advice would you give to yourself if you were starting again today?
Hard work all the hours you can, right? Which is far from unique advice here.
Yeah.
But the second area I would say is to try to have as little ego as possible. Right. A little story about my parents. They love cooking. So they always would cook a meal for us when we were little. Whenever we sat down, we would start eating it, say how great it was. But then the next thing that we would say is, what can we do better? What do we need to change? What other ingredient needs to go in? So for my parents, they loved cooking so much they wanted to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now, learning idea for me was don't go to anybody's house. And as soon as you tell them how good the food is, then tell them how you can make it better. Because not everyone's ready for that. But when you want to constantly be better, you always want to look in that capacity.
So I love that advice. So it's just you just pushing yourself to get a little bit better each day. It could be just one little ingredient.
1 grain of salt.
Love it. Love it. And what's next for you and the team?
We have a lot of big goals for this year and onwards. I think continuing to grow and expand is going to be the end game plan. Now, how far, how much we're going to expand is still up in the air, but it's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. And it's really nice that you and your partners all have this growth mindset and you all bring it every day. I can't wait to have you back in 4 or 5 years and see, maybe even 3, to see where you've doubled or tripled the practice already.
Sounds good to me.
So, well, Tim, listen, thank you. This has really been awesome. There's so many great things that you brought up today in our meeting here in our podcast, but there's so many things that you're doing that are transferable. And I love, what you opened up with. You've taken the skill set that you had for finance and you've applied it to yourself, and you've looked at yourself that way and your team and your business. And it's come back to bring you back, like I said, in the top 1% of the industry. So super proud of you. Congratulations on all you've done. And, guys, ladies, if you're listening on driving right now, go back. There's so many great tips here. And when you think of small steps, big wins, Tim's taking a lot of small steps and they're paying off big time, but they didn't pay off immediately. So I love seeing that. And you're doubling down on that. So congratulations on your practice.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
You got it. Everybody have a great day. Apple, Spotify, follow us, like us, share it, and talk to you all soon. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.